So today we got a question from a bro who wants to know if his hyper self-awareness is helping him or actually hurting him. Great question, man. And before we get into that, if you're looking for some clarity or direction on your situation, or just another brother to hold space for you while you allow your own revelations to come through, then you know what to do. Book a session with me, your old Uncle E, by clicking the link down below. So today's question goes, Yo, Elliott. I feel like I'm constantly analyzing myself, my thoughts, my emotions, my motives, whether I'm making the right decisions or becoming the right person. I thought being more self-aware would give me clarity, but the more I look inward, the more confused and anxious I become. Can you actually spend too much time thinking about yourself? Love that question, man, and I'd like to bring us back to a time when self-awareness did not exist. Did you know that developmental psychologists say that when a baby comes into the world, it doesn't know the difference between itself, the mother, and the environment? Like, in other words, everything is one thing. There's zero separation. But as we develop, we start to notice that there is a me and a thou. And it begins with the mother. They call it the love object relation loss, where there's a break within the ego and the baby, for the very first time, becomes aware of something outside of itself. And in that begins decades of instruction on separation. Well, this is a dog, and that's a cat, and that's the sun, and that's a cloud, and that's a blade of grass, and that's a tree. And you're Elliott, and I'm me. So little by little, we start to compartmentalize. We start noticing things objectively. Oh, that's a chalkboard. Oh, that's a dog, right? Let's begin with the dog. A dog is a dog is a dog is a dog objectively. You look at it and you say dog. You're instructed very briefly about what a dog does. It says bow wow or roof, right? And you get the little picture books when you're a kid and you start learning these things. D-O-G, dog. The dog is completely neutral. The dog is completely free from any meaning besides its picture and word. But the minute you have an experience with the dog bites you. Now you have all kinds of associations. You have all kinds of stories. You have all kinds of emotions. You have trauma associated with the dog. And now the dog no longer means that pretty picture of the animal with its tongue hanging out, D-O-G, and actually becomes a threat. And so the emotions are involved. And that means dogs need to be highly considered if we're going to be living on Earth. I got to be hyper vigilant. If I see the dog out there, the dog might be a threat. So my association with that dog is to run or to stay away from it, because it might bite me. And that starts happening with all kinds of things. Your mom is cool for a long time until one day she snaps and she yells at you for something that triggered her, probably associated with her own traumas. But now you know, don't bring that subject up with mommy. Don't say that thing with mommy. So the very thing that you asked for, maybe a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and for some reason she just threw a fit because she didn't want to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich for you. You now have an association with mommy and asking for something. Boy, I better be careful before I ask mommy something. So mommy goes from just being a source of pleasure, a source of life, a source of momminess into a perceived threat. Why is this important for self-awareness and how self-awareness can become actually a bad thing? Because although we're talking about the objective world, these things that are out there, the minute they become subjective, they now get onto a spinning wheel. You ever see those on the playground? I don't know if they have them anymore, but when I was a kid, they had spinning wheels, right? And the kids would get on the wheel and they'd spin around, right? And then another kid would get on the wheel and they'd spin around. And before you know it, like all the other kids will just like hop on it. And before you know it, you got a dozen kids spinning around. And it goes from one kid just screaming and enjoying himself, to 12 kids and chaos and pandemonium just spinning around. This is what happens every time something that is meaningless or objective becomes subjective. The dog is not just a dog anymore. Homework is not just homework anymore. The test isn't just a test anymore. The girl isn't just a girl anymore. The job isn't just a job anymore. It is one of those screaming kids that hops on the inner turnstile of your mind. That spinny thing on your inside now has another kid, another kid, another kid, another kid. And they're all spinning around on the inside there, screaming and whooping and hollering. And some of them want to get off. Some of them want to keep going. Some want to go faster. Some want to slow down. And then you begin to introspect. You become self-aware. You start paying attention to all those screaming kids spinning around on the spinny thing on the inside of you. And you're more confused than ever before. So what do? Most people try to solve the problem at which the problem was created. They try to solve the problem of overthinking, overanalyzing, analyzing your emotions, your motives, your thoughts, and judging yourself by wrestling with the content, by dealing with the kids, by having conversations with the screaming kids on the inside. And these kids are like, they're emotional because they're either having a great time or they're scared as hell. And then you go and you consult with them. You look at them and you wonder, what is it that you want? How can I help you? How can we, more likely than anything, how can we calm this situation down? Ever try to calm a screaming kid down by talking rationally to it? It doesn't work. They're out of control. And so are all of the thoughts, the emotions, the judgments, the motives on the inside of you. And the crazy thing about it, which is already very evident, but I have to point it out, is that they all came from without you. They're all from without. You are without. Even though you think you're within. You think you're introspecting, but you're pandering to and dealing with a bunch of screaming kids that got added to you. Thoughts, fears, emotions, hopes, desires that got added to you. Because the truth is that our needs are very small. Our wants are huge. And our wants are multifaceted. Like we want to be liked. We want to be honored. We want to be first. We want to be happy. We want nice things. We want to be around nice people. We want nice food. We have all kinds of preferences. All kinds of preferences. And so all those preferences, all those desires, along with all those screaming kids on the inside associated with experiences that you've had in the past that are now haunting you today, you try to introspect. You're trying to solve the problem which the problem is created by having the very desire, the preference to rid yourself of these screaming kids is a byproduct of the same mindset. It's trying to solve the problem. Because here, what do most people do when they try to solve the problem of the screaming kids? Oh, they go out there and they find another screaming kid. Oh, they say the screaming kid over here who just got out of the cold bath, he's the best. We got to do the cold shower kid and get him on here. Cold shower kid, get in here. Now he's spinning around with all the other ones chattering and you're feeling good about yourself. Well, we did the cold bath. What do we got to do next? And then you get the kid who's dreamy-eyed and sort of zombieing around, and you're like, oh, you gotta meditate. I gotta meditate. So you grab the meditation kid and you throw him on the wheel too. And now all you've done is you've added more kids to the screaming wheel. It's a mess. The only way to get calm, to calm down that spinning wheel and to get those screaming kids off of it, is to disassociate any meaning you have to any thought or feeling that comes to you in the moment. Because it's always going to be associated with a screaming kid from the past. Abandonment means even abandoning self-observation, self-awareness, self-introspection. Especially because most of our inner world has been invaded and is a mess with screaming kids on a spinning wheel. So rather than self-awareness, I'm going to propose self-suspect. Be suspect. Be suspect of any thought. Be suspect of any feeling. Anything that arises inside, keep it at a distance. See, the thing goes from being objective to subjective because we have a feeling or a judgment or perception of it. But the minute we let go of that feeling, the judgment, the perceptive, it just becomes a thing. The screaming kid on the inside, even if he's still on that wheel, no longer disturbs. Because you just look at it like, well, that's interesting. That's there. Well, I guess I'll just deal with that. Meaning, I'm going to abandon myself to it. I'm going to die to myself to it. I'm going to allow myself to have these screaming kids spinning around in my head until guess what happens? Two things can happen. Number one, you can yell at the kids, you can fight against the kids, you can try to control the kids, you can try to run in there and slow down the wheel, and all you're going to do is further facilitate the aggravation of those kids. They're going to look at you and they're going to scream. They're going to turn it into a game. They're going to say, he's trying to get rid of us. And they're going to spin harder. That's option number one. That's the one that most people do. Try to solve the problem at the level it was created. Get in there and solve the problem. And now you just become a screaming maniac running around trying to get the kids off. I got to handle this. I got to get rid of this. I got to fix this problem. Option number two is you sit back and you watch. Oh, look at that. Look at those kids. Oh, here comes another one. Oh, isn't that interesting? Well, they're spinning around and screaming. And if you just let them be without engaging, without resisting, because you know what you resist persists, by and by those kids start falling away. They get bored. And they get bored quicker when nobody's there to bother them. The minute you get in there and you try to wrestle with the kids, they're having a good time. They're like, oh, this guy's fun. Get out, get down from there. They think you're joking. They think you're having a great time with them. But the minute you sit back and you just watch them, you ignore them, you don't give them, they scream as loud as they want, you just check your watch. They get bored and they go away. So then you ask Elliott, what's the point of introspection? Bluntly, there is none. There is none. There is no point to this kind of introspection or self-awareness that's born out of the self-deception that I somehow are the judge, the jury, and the arbiter of my life. And I need to fix things. I need to get rid of this guy. I need to change this guy. I got to get this kid off the wheel. I got to slow down the wheel. And resting in the truth that there's no power separate from you. There's only one power and there's only one God. And the minute we give power to something else by resisting it, by fighting it, by going to war against it, by trying to make it better, we've made ourselves a God. And as Jesus says, you can't have two gods. You can't worship both. And as the first commandment says, have no other gods but me. And the number one God that most people will worship, doesn't matter your religion, doesn't matter your tradition, doesn't matter where you are or how old you are, it is self-worship. It's self-worship. We make ourselves into an idol. And by making ourselves into an idol, we also make the content of our experience and our thoughts God's too. Now the dog goes from just being D-O-G to G-O-D, because the minute I see it, I'm in fear. And what do people do when they're in fear? They either try to get away or they try to pander, right? Oh, please, dog, don't bite me. I'll be nice. I'm a nice guy. Oh, it's okay. And then dog doesn't give a shit. Or they try to get away from it. Making it like a god. Making it something outside of yourself that holds enough power to unseat you. As opposed to the truth, which is God is unfolding all things perfectly and purposefully in your life as we speak, as you see it. And that our only job is just to do what's in front of me. But you might say, Elliott, then what's the point of the intellect? What's the point of thought? What's the point of the mind? The mind, as we use it, is, they would say, a good slave at best and a horrible master. What we do is we make our mind our master rather than allowing it to be a tool, a slave. The mind is like a hammer. And there are times when like it's appropriate. Well, you got the hammer, you got the nail lined up, you know where you want to put it, and you drive it. Bang, bang, bang. And then what do you do with the hammer after that? You put it in your belt and you go about doing the rest of your job. Right? You might have a bunch of nails to do. Bang, 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 bang. But then when you're done with it, you put it away. Now I have a piece of wood I need to saw. Do you pull out the hammer? No, you don't pull out the hammer. You pull out a brand new tool. You have more than one tool. You don't only have intellect, you have intuition, you have instinct, and you have intelligence, which is a combination of all three. But we've got a cramp in our left brain with the analytical aspect of things, and we made that our God, and thus made ourselves our God. And thus we are unseated, and you are saying that you become anxious and confused, of course, because you're giving power over to the screaming kids on the inside rather than just allowing them to walk away in due time. I'm going to wrap up with this. Abandonment to divine providence isn't just about letting things be in your outer life. It's not just about seeing things and not allowing the outer things to disturb us, right? World War III is coming. I'm abandoned. Famine is coming. Notice all these things are coming. It's always something that's coming that we're afraid of, right? The food is going away. The air is getting polluted. The water is bad to drink. The bad guys are coming. There's going to be a land invasion. All these things. All outside of the now. And so abandoning ourselves to the trappings of the world, the distractions of the world, is really good, especially as far as not allowing them to hop on the spinning wheel inside your heart. But even more powerful, even more important, and damn sure more difficult is abandoning ourselves to divine providence away from our own perceptions, our own hopes, our own fears, our own beliefs, our own desires. These things are content. They are actually objective, past experiences that we then drag into the present and try to manipulate the present by it. We have to let it go completely, have no preferences. I have no preferences. I have no goals. I have no desires, no dreams. All I have is my will that's abandoned to divine providence. I don't even think anymore, guys. The minute I begin like the way you are right now, I see the futility in it. I see the pathology in it, and I let it go. Man, I remember the first time I started letting these things go, and I had a reaction, a negative reaction, because I thought something was wrong with me, because I was no longer anxious. I was so used to being on my tippy toes, constantly thinking and plotting, scheming, and trying to get things, that when the grace of abandonment descended upon me for the first time in like 2005, then I'm not saying I practiced it well since 2005, but the first time I noticed it, because I began meditating, I was shocked. I don't feel anything. I'm not thinking about anything. I tend to think that that's our natural state. The natural state of the human being isn't constantly thinking, feeling, or doing. It's being. That's why we're called human beings. And so, my man, when you catch yourself ruminating, you catch yourself introspecting, you catch yourself thinking, rationalize, first of all, that this is all useless. If you want to use reason, you can reason yourself to death. I can reason you to death here about why it's all useless. Why all the greatest things in my life have come not by thought and will, but by abandonment and grace. But you need to experience that. That's why they call it going out on a limb. You got to go out on a limb where there's a threat. It might break. It's a little scary out there. But you got to go out on a limb and abandonment. You got to go out on the limb of abandonment and abandon yourself. Abandon your hopes, fears, dreams, and anything in your life that holds you back from the peace of Christ. Done.